Hello, Thomas. Where are you for the moment? Where are you?
I'm in Boston. We're at the conference talking to other academics about new research in the area. So we came in 2 days ago. Before then, I was in San Francisco talking to other people about OneSwarm. So it's been a lot of traveling lately.
Before we discuss, about peer-to-peer and all this, would you like to tell us a short introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, your background. You're Swedish, from Stockholm, etc., etc. Could you please do that?
Yes, I grew up in Stockholm, and then I went over to the US on an exchange program from my old university. So I moved to the US in 2005. And then I liked it in Seattle, so I stayed, and I continued doing work there with my two professors, Arvind Krishnamurti and Tom Anderson. So this project grew out of the fact that we think that peer-to-peer software is an important tool, but that current peer-to-peer software has a lot of problems that we want to fix. And OneSwarm is a way to solve these problems.
So what's happening in so many Swedish guys, are making worldwide, I mean, in this business, and you're becoming famous all over the world?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's there's a lot of computer science interest in Sweden, I guess, and in some ways we were lucky in the dot-com boom. So the dot-com boom hit Sweden pretty hard, but at the end we had all these bankrupt companies that invested millions of dollars in infrastructure that they suddenly had to sell really cheap. So we got all these bandwidth really cheap and all this other infrastructure for cheap. And then also it's, I guess, the government plan that we should invest in IT. It was called IT back in the 90s, before. So I guess I came out of that, I guess, and a lot of people also, I guess.
So it's a kind of fruit that the tree produce through many years, let's say, progress, through many years of tries and efforts. It's not just one thing that comes, you invest within time of 5 or months or 1 or 2 years. It's a long tradition in the background.
Yeah, I think it was in '94, the Swedish then Prime Minister, he decided that Sweden should be an IT nation. So he sent an email to Clinton, the first email sent between two heads of state, saying that, hello from Sweden, we're trying this new email thing. How's it going over there? And that's basically how it started. So that was '94, so that's 15 years ago. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Sweden, so yeah, it's fun.
And now it's 15 years later, we're sitting, in Athens, and I'm talking with you in Boston, so it's...
Yeah, you're using a program written by a Swede.
You mean the Skype?
Yeah.
Who was that? Tell us.
That was, what's it called? Niklas...
Niklas.
Yeah. He wrote Kazaa before he wrote Skype, so he's one of these guys that's good at writing software people like, I guess.
Pioneers, let's say, in his way. Tell us a little bit about your OneSwarm, let's say, invention or thing. You're not alone. You're working together with two professors, as much as I understood, right?
Yeah,
but
so
tell us a little bit about your baby.
Yeah, so we're four person on the OneSwarm project. So it's me and another student and two professors. And the goal is to make peer-to-peer software more available for the mainstream. So currently, peer-to-peer software is great because it allows you to share things without having to upload it to a third party. So right now, on the internet, if you want to share something with your mom, for example, you can upload it to YouTube or to Facebook or one of those programs or companies. But then, yeah, sure, your mom can go in and she can watch it. But then you have to give away all your rights to your content to YouTube or Facebook. And they're in control of your content afterwards. So with OneSwarm, One usage model is that you just want to share things with your friends, but you don't want to give away your rights and your content to a third big company or corporation. Another usage model is that you have content that you want to share, and you want to share it with your users, but you don't want your users to be monitored by third parties, being it the government or corporations. So OneSwarm allows your users to download your content without them having to reveal whether to the world who they're sharing with or what they're downloading, what their interests are. So that's the privacy preserving aspects of OneSwarm. Then we look at other things like usability and stuff like that we're just playing around with. So it's an exploration in this space, I would say. So,
if I understand right, if I put it in correct words, it's like this limitation that it came from your side, that you can address some things. Let's say Giorgos is addressing to Tomas without the other people being able to see it or listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that strange. It's like if you meet someone on the street and you talk, at least you have some expectation that, well, if you go home to your place, no one is listening. But when you talk to people on the internet, it seems like, well, people are listening all the time. At least before it was only governments listening, but in these peer-to-peer networks, it's corporations and other interest groups that are monitoring these networks, trying to track who's doing what.
That's the reason, because probably you introduced, I don't know, it was from you or your company and the other guys, or it was a critic that it says that instead of peer-to-peer, you're using friend-to-friend.
Exactly. So the protection we offer is that, well, say I want to watch a speech of Obama, and all of my friends know that I'm a liberal, so I'm not too worried about that. But what if my boss or my father-in-law or something, he's a Republican, so I don't want him to know what I'm downloading. Well, I'm fine with showing all my friends that, okay, these are 10 or 15 friends that I'm okay showing that I'm downloading Obama's speeches, and the rest of the world, they really shouldn't see. So OneSwarm allows you to use this trust that you already have in your friends, and you use that to get better performance in the system. So there are other systems that provide complete anonymity, where no one can track anything, but because that's so much harder, they are much slower. So OneSwarm provides, at least we think, OneSwarm provides a good performance to privacy trade-off.
So it's you shape some criteria which is up to the user in order to click on the boxes, who you want, to see you, blah blah blah, etc.
Exactly. So once you have your friends in the system, you can just select on a file. Okay, I want this group of friends or these friends to see this file, and other people don't see the file. Of course, in OneSwarm you can also say that, well, the entire world can see this file. I mean, I download things all the time that I'm fine with everyone seeing. So it's not like I think that everyone should always hide everything, but I think that the user should be in control over what they reveal and what they don't reveal.
When was it introduced, and how many people are using your tool today, Tomas?
So we launched it 2 months ago, roughly, in late February, and last time I checked, we had around 140,000 downloads. It's it's an incredible interest, which is surprising because we're really early in the development. The program has a lot of problems still, and we're still working hard to make it better. But it seems like people really want this, especially in Europe. Not so much in the States yet, but in Europe, where the European Parliament is discussing how to take away our liberties on the internet, people seem to be fighting back, and it seems like the way people fight back now is they download technology that will solve their problems. Also in Sweden there's a political movement, but not so much. It's easier for people just to download technology to solve their problems instead of talking to the politicians.
Since you mentioned this political factor, what's your view to this question, of Because, I mean, in Sweden, it's not just Pioneer. With you, the Facebook, and all these people, they're writing all these tools, you know, or like Pirate Bay. It just came out, the conclusion or the decision, you know, of the court in Stockholm about Pirate Bay. Probably you know the guys directly, or what's your opinion about those things?
Actually, I don't know those guys. I think we're from slightly different groups, but of course the decision is sad for those guys because they have to go to prison. I don't think much will change. It will still be, the Pirate Bay guy says that their site will still be up, people will still file share. So it seems like the only effect it will have is that they put 4 guys in prison for a year. Which, I don't know. If the court decided they did something illegal, well, I guess they did something illegal. But, yeah.
On the other hand, perhaps it will work as when we throw olive oil in the fire, you know, instead of water or something, you know. So probably things will boom much more because they're getting a kind of advertisement for free, you know, something.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's the case that things has to be worse before it gets better. So it could be the case that the current government or the current upper class, I guess, they will keep on pursuing their interest, and eventually the people will get upset and just say, okay, we're not taking this anymore. You guys go out. I mean, that could be possible. I'm not sure what will happen with the Pirate Bay guys. I mean, that's years ahead in court still. So.
You mentioned upper class. Do you think there's a cliff? There's a a schism between some people, they have rights. That's interesting.
I wouldn't say upper class. Actually, that's probably the wrong word. I think it's more of the young generation versus the old. I'm sorry, but it seems like young people take a lot of liberties on the internet for granted, and they've been growing up with the internet for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I don't think the current people in power know how much young people rely on the internet for their social network, for their communication, for their entertainment. And when we start taking that away and saying, no, we're actually going to monitor you guys, or we're not going to allow this, then of course people will be upset.
So it's like a kind of pendulum, isn't it? I mean, that it seems pity that we have to come to the extreme far one side in order that all the courts and all the legal processing, the showing or the pushing into this direction in order to enforce some new laws or some restrictions,
Yeah, it seems like there's a pendulum, and currently it's going very, very far to the surveillance society side, and we'll see what happens. At least now in the EU Parliament, a couple of days ago, they had this telecom package, and at least it wasn't as bad as we expected it to be, but it's still bad. So I mean, who knows what will happen.
In the European Parliament, I think one of these days they're discussing about the copyright term extension. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I heard about that. I have, of course, my private view, which, I mean, I'm a person creating technology. So at least in the current legal system, I could apply for a patent, right? And a patent for technology is some number of years. I'm not sure. For different things, it's different number of years. I think for medicine, it's 25 or something, and for other technologies, it's a bit longer. But it's very far from my lifetime plus 95 years or whatever they wanted. So as a scientist, I think it's a bit unfair that the people creating music get so much longer copyright than what I would get. I think having the same length for everyone would be more fair. I mean, everyone who's creating things and inventing things are doing it for the common good, right? So we also have an interest in releasing it to everyone after some number of years and benefiting society as a whole. Also, another thing is that if I create something and I apply for a patent, I have to describe it pretty detailed to get the patent and say, okay, so when the patent runs out, anyone else is free to create this thing that I created, and perhaps cheaper than I do it. But with music, even though a lot of people want to take existing music and merge it into something new and take the parts of that music and expand it, and that's not handled at all in the current legal system. So there's an entire class of culture that we simply can't get because of legal problems, and that's also sad, I would say.
One of the two guys from ABBA, he was very clear against, these guys from Pirate Bay. I think he wrote something or a message or on an interview that, it's very fair that they have to pay about 3 million euro and probably have to sit 1 year in prison for that.
Well, it's... So I understand that if you create some music, you want to get paid for it. I completely understand that point of view. So the question is how we should pay people, and I'm not sure what the best way is. I'm not a politician, but I know that currently it's so cheap to copy things, and it's so hard to track people down to make them not copy. So we might have to figure out another way than just selling plastic discs. We might have to figure out another way to pay people. But it's pretty clear that if you create a good song, of course you should be rewarded. Just like if you create a good computer program, you can potentially get money for that too, or a good tool in any other sense. So of course people should be paid, but we might have to figure out another way than plastic discs.
So what about the IPRED, this International Property Rights Enforcement Directive? That it was passed in the Swedish as a Swedish law. What's your view about it?
I don't think that will matter too much. It seems like there's too many loopholes. Already there are these... so programs like OneSwarm will obviously make IPRED less efficient, at least for people's private sharing. People use all kinds of services to make sure that they can't be tracked. I don't think it will be big. That won't matter much.
Who do you think is using more? Who's going to use more your OneSwarm?
So I think people are going to use it for all kinds of things. I use it with my friends to share my stuff, and it's very useful in that sense. It's easy to set up. I can just share pictures with my friends, my mom, and I live in Seattle, so my mom is far away. So if I want to say what's going on, I can just record a simple video with my camera, and she can easily download it that way. Much easier than emailing it, and that never works, and it's just a big hassle. Then I hope that radio stations and media companies will start to use it. So, for example, in the US there's a radio station called National Public Radio, NPR, and they have a lot of really good content that they give away for free online. And currently, just to distribute this stuff, it costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just to send this data to the users, and the users aren't paying anything because it's a donation-based system. So you can imagine using OneSwarm to help have their users upload this data for them, so they don't have to pay this hundreds of thousands of dollars, but instead have their users use their idle broadband links that they already pay for, and use that capacity. So I think there's a lot of uses for OneSwarm that are really good.
So this 120 or 150,000 that they downloaded probably eventually will develop to geometrical process, like it will be 1 million very soon or something, So
currently our program isn't that good, so we really don't want too many people to use it in case they just use it and notice, there's a bug, I don't want to use this anymore. So we're trying to not spread it too much, but it seems like people are okay with taking all the bugs because there's simply no better alternative. And since it's a friend-to-friend based program, the more friends you have that use it, the better it is for you. So you could imagine that each user brings 2 friends, and each of those users bring 2 extra friends, and then suddenly it can explode really quickly.
When you're opening OneSwarm, it warns you that there might be bugs and it's not 100%. Is that what you're referring, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they're both usability bugs, as in it's not as easy to use as we would hope it to be, or that we want it to be eventually. And also it could be technical bugs that we don't know of. It's a pretty big piece of software, and anyone who's using Windows knows that it's hard to get that right, even if you have millions of dollars or billions of dollars in research money or development money, and we're only 2 guys working on it. So it could potentially be bugs. we're very thorough when we write the software, try to avoid any bugs, but it can always happen. So we usually say that don't share anything on OneSwarm that you don't want your mommy to see. That's our standard rule. And if you don't do that, then you're basically fine.
In the beginning of our discussion, you mentioned that Europeans are more interested in OneSwarm, rather than Americans, and you have an explanation. Do you think you're coming more close to the difference between Europeans and Americans, that they probably, I don't know, I'd like to hear your view on that.
So I think Europeans are more worried about their privacy than Americans are. I think Americans, they just assume that the US government are not looking at them, so they're not as used to privacy as Europeans are. In Europe, privacy is basically in the constitution as a fundamental right to your own privacy. So now when the European governments are trying to take away more and more of that, then Europeans are fighting back.
On the other hand, it's very pessimistic for United States citizens, if they feel the way they feel, is the way you describe it, because they don't, yeah.
I think that they will start to notice, because I would say it's one thing if the US government has some big group of servers somewhere that's looking at everything the people are saying. That's bad. But it's even worse when you have private corporations tracking users at a massive scale, millions of people, everything they download. I think that once people start noticing that that's actually happening, they will start to take action here in the US too.
We are a political party, the socialists here. Which way we could adopt? Which way can we use OneSwarm?
So
to be more effective in which way?
So in a couple of versions, OneSwarm will support embedding data into your homepage. So you can embed a movie on your homepage just like you can embed a YouTube video on your homepage right now. So say you guys want to put this interview up on your homepage, for example. Well, you can either put it on your homepage, and then for each user that comes and visits, you have to pay your bandwidth bill, and it gets slow, and if you have a lot of visitors, you have to pay a lot of money. So, or you could upload it to YouTube and put it on YouTube, but then YouTube is in control over this data and can take it offline if you don't like it or whatever. Or you can use OneSwarm, and our goal is that OneSwarm should be just as easy to use as the YouTube video you put in your homepage. And if the user has OneSwarm installed, it will just download it, and the user can specify their privacy and everything if they want to, or they can just download it publicly and everyone can see. It's up to the user, the individual user. So we hope that by the end of the summer we'll have all this stuff finished, so people can start using it that way.
And we are able to upload many videos, for instance?
Well, since your users will help you guys out with transferring the data, you can upload, or you can share as many videos as you want, and if you have one user downloading it, then later he will become a source of this data too. So when the next person comes and want to download it, he can either get it from you guys or from this other user. So it quickly becomes, it scales really well in that each user brings his own resources, so that when as the number of users increases, each user brings enough resources to take the next guys. So you guys don't have to pay as much money to your network provider.
Mm-hmm. Plus, one of very important things is that we own this material. It's not uploaded somewhere that we don't control.
So that's another thing. In OneSwarm, if you specify limited visibility, so example, if I want to share something only with my mom, so if I only specify it as visible to her, then when she downloads it, it's on her hard drive, but it's not shared with any one of her friends. So if she wants to add other people she wants to share it with, she has to do that manually. And of course, if she already has the file, it's not anything you can do. It's if you allow someone to see the content, you have some trust in that they won't redistribute it. So that's the content protection rules. We don't have any digital rights management or anything like that, or encrypt data. That's just too hard to get right, so we don't have anything like that.
Are there any companies, because you're living in the center of the earth there, right, talking about computers and particularly in Seattle, are there any companies that they near you or listen, just to ask you about possible buying or using or, commercial?
So, no, actually we haven't really had any commercial contacts. I don't really see how to make money of this, at least not in the short run. But maybe if someone can tell me how to do it. But currently we are giving out everything for free, and we were funded by the U.S. government. So we write papers describing how OneSwarm works, so anyone else can implement the protocol. The client is obviously open source, which means that anyone can download the code and change whatever they want and then redistribute it. Also, the protocol is free for anyone to implement. So currently, we don't really have any property to sell, I guess.
Mm. So who, except your U.S. government that is funding you, who is your sponsors more?
So we have a grant from the National Science Foundation, and they are funding our work. Basically, how to make peer-to-peer better for the public. So peer-to-peer is, as I said, it's really useful, especially for people with limited resources that want to reach a large public. And our goal is to make it more useful for the public, so we can actually hit the mainstream, so everyone is using peer-to-peer, not only the geeks in Sweden.
So marginal, I always leave, to you, for instance, right now. Is there any more you want to say to us in Athens and everywhere, because we might want to upload this interview that we just make it? Do you want to add something?
Let's see, what could I want to add? Well, hello everyone in Greece. Download OneSwarm. I'm not sure. We have actually quite a fair share of on our homepage we can see what countries people are visiting our homepage at, and we actually have a fair share of Greek users. So yeah, it's fun. It's really a worldwide thing.
Okay, so I think thank you for your time. I don't know, we'll talk again in the future. I don't know, after 100,000 users, probably you have some millions. I wasn't hard to find you after all. Nice to talk to you, Tomas.
Nice to talk to you too.